I think the big problem about learning things on YouTube is that there's not a ton of transparency about how hard things are or about failures. And I mean, I'm guilty of it myself.
I think you've done 10 million in sales. Is that what you said?
The first year I did Amazon FBA, I did 100,000 in sales, merchant fulfilled. Then I switched into FBA once I started to realize the possibility. And so it was a lot of work, and obviously it makes a lot of gross numbers, but it was really cool that back then you couldn't manually stipulate your shipping cost on Amazon. That's only a thing in the last, I think, 5-6 years. And so those were kind of like the golden days of FBA. And it went from that to, slowly scaling more into FBA. You learn stuff over time. I probably made every mistake possible on selling on Amazon. I'm pretty certain of that. Like all an expert is someone who's made all the mistakes within a certain niche, and I made all of them. There wasn't any books about how to do it, and anything you could find would be like on a website or a blog. They were all like, anybody talking about selling online was like 60 plus years old. It was super, it was like the wild, wild west, Like there's so much, I don't know. I just really organically discovered, I literally didn't know what Amazon was. And I seen people where I was selling on eBay. That's like where I come from, is just selling junk on eBay, flea market, yard sale, whatever. Buying lots of G.I. Joe figures on eBay and then parting them out and putting the right weapons with the right G.I. Joe guy and repairing them and selling those. Like I've done a lot of stuff. One day someone was like, "Hey, Reezy, why don't you sell Nikes on Amazon? You're probably approved." And I was like, "What? You can sell Nikes on Amazon?" And just through my YouTube network, I had met a lot of people, and they were like, "Yeah, just sharing stuff with me out of respect." And then I realized, the whole shoe business on Amazon, which I was like, wow, there's nothing easier than selling shoes on Amazon. Like, yes, it's very expensive, but if you manage it properly, like that's probably the easiest Amazon business. It's harder to scale. Retail arbitrage, right? You need a team. They got buying limits, blah, 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 blah. But like, then I got into that. Then I got into more random retail arbitrage. It's just like, there's so many opportunities with selling online, and Amazon has some of the best. I mean, I don't think anybody can argue Amazon has the most traffic over anything. And there's so much different ways you can cut the cake on Amazon that you might not like it. It might not be your favorite thing, but it definitely pay the bills and make you quit your 9 to 5 or whatever. And then you don't have to do Amazon forever, but maybe you start a local business, maybe you end up being a Mercari seller or a Poshmark seller or a whatnot seller or a YouTuber or whatever. But like, I'm a firm believer that Amazon is the gateway to freedom for most people, because if you can learn how to do like reselling junk on eBay, and then Amazon is just more scalable. You don't have to write descriptions. You don't have to take pictures. If you do FBA, you don't have to ship it or do customer service. And so it's like the amount of volume one person can do if you utilize Amazon properly is, in my opinion, enough. Oh, and I think that my background of coming from less than what most people come from has allowed me to recognize opportunity very easily. And then when you combine that with not really having a lot, I always felt like I owe other people around me like something. And so what can I do to bring value to the tribe? I'd be like, oh, this is the hustle. Check this out. Let me drop some game on you real quick. That's really what Reezy Resells is me just sharing information that I know of with others in the hopes of helping them to change their life. And then they continue to spread that helping others virus around, like, I don't know, it's addictive.
No, I love it. And hey, if anyone watching, I just want to say thank you for everything you have shared. Definitely, you started this long before anyone else started it. Or she said, like, I even knew about it. I've been in the game 6 years now, I think it is. I think you said like it's been, 17 years? Is that right?
15 years of full-time online income and dabbling for 17 years. So I started selling online with Yahoo Auctions, which is like an eBay competitor way back in the day from Yahoo. So when we started selling on Yahoo Auctions, me and my brother, we were selling bootleg DVDs, but they weren't really bootleg. It's a weird niche called Fansets. And they were cartoons and old TV shows that at the time had not been released on DVD yet. And then we would sell that on Yahoo Auctions and later on eBay. And we were selling them for like $300 at first because there was nowhere you could get it. It's like a very niche thing. And we got shut down on one account. We moved into just selling whatever we could in my mom's house. I would go to flea markets and selling yard sales, and I would sell electronics. I would always look for video games. I would always look for vintage toys. I would always look for, anything sealed, but I wasn't really, I didn't know you could scan stuff with barcodes, or I don't think that software was out yet, but it was just a lot of looking stuff up. And like, we didn't have cell phones back then. So I would write stuff down on paper and then go to the payphone and call my brother and be like, Royce, look this up. Back in the day, that was called having a rabbit. And that's kind of how we did it for a really long time. I would guess on stuff. I would lose money. I would make money. I would occasionally find this weird thing, that I would do good on, but it was a lot of blind buying. And then, technology started to get a little bit more accessible. And before I started selling books on Amazon, used books, I was just making probably $500 a month on average. If I made $1,000, that was like a really good month. But I used to do all kinds of stuff. I used to just sell CDs of bootleg CDs of music, or I would have a Netflix and we'd copy all the DVDs and I would sell DVDs to friends for $5 or whatever, right? So at the thrift store, see people with carts of books that I actually think are workers at the thrift store, but it turns out they were resellers. And I asked them, hey, what are you doing? And then they would stonewall me and they wouldn't tell me anything. And that made me really excited because I know that that's what I would do if I was making a lot of money. And one time I seen an older woman scanning books who I'd never seen before. And so I knew she was from out of town. And I just approached her and I was really nice. Like, hey, what are you doing if you don't mind me asking? And she was like, oh, no problem. I sell books on Amazon and I'm using this software called a seller tool. And that was it. That was everything, because their website, they had a blog, they had information. And this was one of the first scanning apps, not the very first one. I think the very first scanning app was Scout Pal. And that was originally, booksellers invented scanning apps, by the way. If anybody doesn't know that, scanning apps were invented by booksellers. And so a seller tool had a little bit of a visual, GUI on their Pocket PC app, but it was hard to install. You have to be a techie to know how to install, using ActiveSync on these Pocket, these little Microsoft devices. It was really, I was lucky that I know how to use tech, because I could buy those things for $10 and then get a good deal on a laser scanner, put it all together myself and be good to go. But a lot of the people that I would see scanning with these things, I know they didn't know how to do that. Some of them were older, and that's when I realized they were selling pre-built packages on the website. So, for $500, you can get the scanner with the PDA, with the database in it. These people don't even know how to update their database. They're using 5-month-old database, you know what I mean? Whereas we're updating it every day or whatever. And so then we started doing that. And then eventually I found the Goodwill outlet, or the bins as we call it, which if you're listening to this and you don't know what it is, figure out, go to the Goodwill website, see if you have a Goodwill outlet near you. I don't care if it's 5 hours away. If you're looking for a way to make money, it's worth driving to it and checking it out. This is the last stop for the inventory before it goes to the landfill. So most of it has been to a Goodwill and sat there and didn't sell, but a good portion of it never really made it to a Goodwill because they get excess inventory. And sometimes at the outlets, they take donations there and the employees aren't exactly paid top dollar. So there's no incentive for them to make sure it goes to the right channel. So it just goes straight to the outlet. And so you could find insane stuff at the outlet. And so that was pretty much the beginning of me buying bulk used books to sell on Amazon and just going through that journey. And I did it for over 10 years, where I would go to the Goodwill outlet every single day. And then after that was done, it would be 10 to noon or 1. I would then go to my thrift store route that I would go to and I was friends with, and I knew when they put the books out and I helped them, et cetera, et cetera. So I got first look at a lot of stuff. And that's pretty much how I built out my FBA business. And I had been selling full time for over 10 years before I even considered doing YouTube. And it was crazy to me. I never thought about sharing information on YouTube because I was clamming up on people, even good friends of mine, if you weren't my best friend, someone who I would say, oh, this is your uncle to my kids, that's the level of person that I would talk to and share stuff. But if you weren't, I would be yeah, I'm not telling you. And not because necessarily I didn't want that person to know, but because I didn't want them to tell anybody. And I just know how that spirals out of control. I was very short-sighted. At the time, I didn't read self-help books. I didn't have an abundance mentality. I just knew that I could make money doing this and that I wanted to do it. But I read Gary Vee's book, which I found found at the Goodwill outlet. And that kind of just changed everything. And then I started teaching and sharing, and then I started learning more from other people. And it wasn't until after I started doing YouTube that I started doing things that were other than books. I mean, I was always selling stuff on eBay, board games on eBay, some, Sopranos DVD set on eBay, but I wasn't ever thinking, can I sell this, on Amazon? The Amazon stuff was just books for a really long time until it started to click to me like, people buy, you know what I mean? Now I buy trash bags on Amazon and cereal on Amazon, like personally. And so now it's like a whole different world. Definitely been a long, long journey.
You said you sold $10 million in, should we say, online platforms. What percentage of that would be Amazon? Let me ask you that.
Probably at least 85.
And what's the other 15? Tell me about that.
Mostly eBay.
Okay. You've done like Instacart. I've seen videos on that. You've done Poshmark, have you? I don't know if you tried that.
A little bit, not too much. So during the pandemic, I actually got really lucky with this one. My daughter, Alyssa, she had temporarily lost her job for the pandemic because of hours were cut back at the cafe and everything. And she was younger, so she was kind of on the chopping block. And so she was like, at the same time, Instacart was promoting to hire new drivers. So they sent out millions of emails saying, come make money with Instacart. And she got one of those emails and she signed up and she made like $300 her first day. And she was really excited. And so she called me and was like, Dad, I'm doing this thing called Instacart where I grocery shop for people and deliver to them. And I made way more than I would make in a day working at the cafe. And it was pretty easy. I didn't have to talk to anyone. And I was like, wow. And she was like, you should come with me and we should make a video. And I was like, wow, like she never wants to be in my videos. And as I don't know if parenting just goes like this, but I want her to be an entrepreneur. I showed her, I taught her everything, but wasn't really her thing. But apparently she picked up on some stuff. And so she comes back and I'm like, yes, let's do it. And so she comes over and we go out, I follow her and I film a video. We did that and that video went viral. And I put her affiliate link, which affiliate marketing is another thing I learned along the way. One of the best ways to make money online, I think, and completely ethical. If you do it the right way, people are going to buy it anyways. You might as well get a cut, right? So I put her Instacart affiliate link in there. And in 3 months, she made over 20 grand. She was like, Dad, I got over $20,000 in payouts from people, that signed up on the link in the video. I was like, holy crap. And so after she told me that, I was like, okay, we're making more Instacart videos. And so I made like 10 Instacart videos. A bunch of them did really well. I helped a lot of people during the pandemic make money, whether it was with Instacart or DoorDash over that period. And a good amount of those people, it's just like everything else. It was right. They did Instacart, then they took that money and they had more free time. And then they looked into what else I was doing, Amazon, eBay.
You've done a lot of models. What would you say is the best model for people getting started?
I mean, it's really hard because it depends on like where you're at. Everybody's different. Like, do you have any money to start? If you don't have any money, you got to start with your own stuff, whatever you have. If you have $500 or you have $2,000, that's different. But also, do you want to start today? And do you have 10 hours a week to watch videos and learn? Maybe you don't, but maybe you also have 5,000. So maybe you could spend 500 buying someone's course, which, I mean, I'm not saying all courses are a ripoff, but I do firmly believe that everything that you need to know is free on the internet. And so when you buy a course, you're really buying fast tracking your journey. Shout out to Fast Track FBA. So if you buy a $500 course, that better save you 40 hours. Or maybe you never thought about what do you get paid per hour and how many hours. You work for $15 an hour, but you would rather spend 400 hours learning this or 40 hours than just buying it for 500, but the math doesn't work out. It's not Amazon for the most part, unless we're talking like used books or used certain things. But I always say that like, hey, you want to get into Amazon and you don't have a lot of money, you don't have the luxury of just selling on Amazon. You have to sell on eBay as well, or maybe on Poshmark or wherever the things that you're finding that you can afford to buy to sell best. You should sell them there, like within means. Don't wring your neck out trying to sell something on one platform for $1 more. But I say you have to be like a thrift army knife. So you're going to the thrift store to look for used books, but you should also be able to tell that those are like really good handmade leather cowboy boots for $10 that are $300 brand new, and you could sell them them for $80 easy. Like you should be able to know about a lot of stuff. You're already there anyways, right? But for the average person that I think has money, I still say dabble, like used a little bit, depending on how fast you are of a learner and how much energy you want to put into it, because you're going to make mistakes and you want to learn. You want to make mistakes quickly and cheaply so that you can continue on. But then I would say go into maybe a little bit of retail arbitrage, depending on how retail arbitrage is really hard, depending on how much competition you have in your area and how many stores you have. Online arbitrage is really accessible to anybody, but I think it's harder for people to understand if they haven't had experience with retail arbitrage, because you're not holding the products, you're not seeing them, you don't have experience with managing your inventory. And so not only did you not see them or touch them or work on them, now they're in your Amazon account and they're just numbers and lines of data on your thing, and you might not really be aware of how much you're getting charged for storage fees for everyone. You know how when you have cash, how much money you have, and when you spend it, your stack of cash gets smaller and smaller, like poker chips. But when you ever buy anything with a credit card and then you walk away and you don't even remember, it's 2 seconds later and you don't know what you paid. You just bought lunch and you paid with your credit card and you walk away, and how much was lunch? I don't know. I didn't really pay attention because you didn't have to count any money. And so it's the same kind of thing, out of sight, out of mind, but in a bad way because you're not in touch with it. And so I really push people to do retail arbitrage, even if they plan on going into online arbitrage, so that they can actually understand what it's like to make a bad buy, how to manage your inventory, all of this stuff. Not to mention, you get the opportunity more so to do merchant fulfilled, which has its own benefits, ups and downs of a lot of different things. But OA is by far the most accessible because you could live anywhere in the world and do OA. If you get an Amazon account, .com account, and a prep center, you could be anywhere on your laptop buying things, shipping it to the prep center, selling it on Amazon. Merch by Amazon, which is selling the print on demand stuff. I actually think, I don't talk a ton about it, but I think it's probably one of the best Amazon business models because you don't have to buy anything. Now, when you sign up for it, it takes a while to get approved. They're not always accepting people in, but it's a true laptop lifestyle business. It has those things like OA has, where you don't have to touch it. You don't have to deal with customer support, shipping, anything. But unlike all of the other Amazon business models, you're building a catalog, almost like realty. Every design you make, it's not all going to sell, but for every 10 or 100 designs you make, you're going to get some that sell. And you don't have to be a graphic designer. You can learn easily how to do it. You make a design and it can sell again and again and again and again. And you still own the rights to the design. Now you can go put that on other t-shirt sites. You can put it on Redbubble, Spreadshirt. You can make an Etsy store where you can put them on coffee mugs and mouse pads and bags and leggings and like whatever you want. And it's a catalog. And like you want to stop, like say I don't want to do it anymore, you could sell that business. It's a hands-off turnkey business. You could sell the designs. Like here's all of my designs. I'm not using these on Etsy. I can license them to you to use on Etsy, or you can buy the whole catalog. You know what I mean? It's different. It's kind of like, it has that element of like where, you know how everybody who specializes in a certain Amazon business model wants to tell you why it's the best and why every other one sucks? Well, you know how private label sellers are, you know, has a very interesting thing of you're not working once, like they're building a brand, and a brand can be sold, and you can make a good, I don't know, spatula. And this not a good idea, by the way, but it's a quick idea. You could make a brand of kitchen utensils that you do well enough on Amazon that Walmart wants to buy it from you, or Walgreens wants to buy it. And now it's in a retail store and you exit, you don't sell that brand on Amazon anymore, but you closed for like $500,000, 1 million or whatever. And that's like a very interesting thing because all of these other Amazon business models are not sellable. Almost all of them. Like some people will say, oh, I'm going to sell my online arbitrage business one day. No, you're not. It's not going to sell. No, that's the most riskiest thing ever. No one wants to do that. Even wholesale businesses are hard to sell because it's very dependent on the business supplier relationship and how the whole thing works, right? Like wholesale is sellable, but it's probably the most sellable compared to like private label, right? But all of those things, like when you think about terms of like fast lane money growth, like all of those things are work once, get money. Stop working, don't get money. But the other things are catalog based, where you build it up and you have equity and you can sell it for a multiplier. A lot of stuff is, trust me, I'll grind it out all day. But the idea of having something that can work for you and be sellable is, you know, that's the next level.
So if anyone's like looking right now, maybe they're struggling, you know, maybe they have like, you know, they don't have much cash, you know, they look at all these different business models, they're obviously going to see private label. They're going to hear the stories about how no other business model, you're actually building a proper business. It's just a hustle. The private label's a real business. Like, you've done a private label product, haven't you? I think it was like the popcorn parachute. Was it
miserably.
as easy as everyone makes out on YouTube?
No. Let's clarify. It's not easy. You know what I mean? But that's why I like the print on demand, because I do feel like it is pretty easy. It's still work, but I think it doesn't require investment, just time, the print on demand. But private label does require cash investment and a lot of time. And there's a lot of things you have to learn that are not things that you naturally know from just selling stuff. Like, I think selling physical stuff is one of the best business models in terms of anybody can do it. There's always going to be stuff to sell. People always want stuff, like especially used stuff. It's never going anywhere. But you want to build a brand? Okay. Like, you got to think of a lot of different stuff. You have marketing, you have advertising, because you don't get traffic out of nowhere. You have to learn like customer management systems. You got like email sequences, when you buy something and it has a little card in it and it's like, go to our website to sign up to get your free, like, that's so that you can get on their email list. And so that they can, send you more products and have your data or whatever. It's very hard to do. I think private label is probably the hardest business model. A wholesale is hard as well, but at least it's just put the shovel to the ground and start digging. And if you do the work, you're going to get the results. But private label requires, more trial and error, more research, and a whole scope of things that, you're selling something nobody wants, essentially. So how do you bring that to the market? I sold something, we called it the popcorn parachute, but it was basically a play parachute that you use like in primary school when kids play with it. And I made a bunch of mistakes. I didn't do enough research. I didn't test the market. It was a thin market, not a thick market, which means that there was some sales, but not a lot of sales to go around. And so thick market is better because there's more demand. And, even if you only get a little bit of a thick market, it will be enough versus getting a little bit of a thin market. That's not enough. I got samples and they were great, but I didn't have an inspector to inspect the shipment before it came from China. And so of course the samples were great, but my shipment was crap quality and it was a cut and sew item. It's a stitched together, different pieces of fabric, and there was threads everywhere and customers were complaining about the handles pulling off and all myriad. I probably made every single mistake you could make in private label on my first attempt. One of the biggest mistakes I did was I failed to realize the importance of like moving quickly, and I married my inventory or my product. Like, don't marry your inventory because sometimes you need to sell it for a loss to go to the next one. And I know this, but in a new field, I had to learn all of these things for this new private label. And I was my baby and I was attached to it. And so I knew within maybe 3, if not 6 months for sure, that it was not going to work out very well. And I should have just sold everything as fast as I could have. And it would have sold. I would have probably lost $3 on every single one or $4. And my cost was like $7, but at least I would have been out of stock. I wouldn't be charged storage fees and I would have money back to roll the dice again. And more importantly, if I would have did it quick enough, I would have maybe still been excited to pursue private label more. But what I did, which was the stupidest thing I could have done, is I was really stubborn and I stretched it out for like 2 years. 2 years later, I'm still trying to sell these damn things, / giving them away to friends. And by then, when I finally sold the last one or donated to the Goodwill, I didn't want nothing to do with private label. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't my thing. And because I have done YouTube and other things, you know what I mean? By those 2 years, I was in a different place and I had, different opportunities on the horizon. And that's the reality, I think, of like hard work on Amazon that a lot of people don't realize. It's not all get rich quick like you see a lot of these 20-year-olds talking about. A lot of them don't have, a family to feed, or maybe they live with their parents and they don't even pay rent or have a mortgage. So it's very misleading to someone else that has those things and has to worry about that. But if you're willing to work hard as hell for 2 years in your free time, you're not watching Netflix, you're maybe losing sleep 2 hours a day, 10 hours a week, whatever. For 2 years, you could probably figure it out on any Amazon business model to quit your job, at least one of you. And then from there, now you can invest more time, either do it more or learn a new thing and maybe eventually bring the other person home. But it's it's not as easily done as it is said. I think the big problem about learning things on YouTube is that there's not a ton of transparency about how hard things are or about failures. And I mean, I'm guilty of it myself, because when things go good, it's easy to make a video, right? And sometimes when things go really wrong, it's also easy to make a video. But when things just go like the average amount of wrong, you don't think about that as being something people want to see. You don't see a lot of videos where I've seen a few where people are doing like tactical arbitrage live sourcing for 40 minutes and they don't find anything. And then they're like, well, that's today's video. Sorry, guys, we didn't find anything. That's a real video. That's real. That happens a lot. And I really respect anyone that puts out a video like that, because people need to understand, you know, the reality of that is some things are easy, but still hard work.
I think the saying is, it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah, same difference.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's a really interesting point. So, like, moving on to other sellers, and because you're obviously well connected and you've been in the game for a long time, and you talked about it then, like what kind of, if I had to ask you to quantify it, what kind of percentage of people do you think who start like Amazon would you actually say are successful after 2 years down the line? Let me put it that way. And what differentiates the successful ones?
I think you can look this data up, to be honest, because Amazon knows how many new sellers sign up every year and then how many sellers continue selling. Like, I think they have the data, but I would say probably less than 10% make it for a year or 2 years. You know, less than 10% definitely make it to the point where they can quit their job.
I think I heard this.
I would say maybe.
I heard a statistic somewhere. It's like 1 in 3 seller accounts never actually, 2 in 3 seller accounts never actually sell anything. They get creative but never do anything.
Yeah. So, 66% dead in the water. That makes sense because it fits in line with, you know, people who buy online courses. They say something like that, like 40 or 60% of people who buy an online course or an ebook don't even open it. It makes you feel good when you buy the solution to your problem instead of actually doing the hard work. Like, it's real. How many people do you think bought P90X program and didn't do any of the workouts? It's like, especially if you pirated it, you got no skin in the game. You know what I mean? It's different. Some people, you know, they buy it. They're like, I'm getting my damn money's worth, you know, and they do it, you know, so power to those people. But I do think a lot of people buy diet programs and never go on a diet.
Question for you.
You know what I mean?
You like beginners selling Amazon, maybe e-commerce online. Like, what are some of the essential skills that they need to have? What do you see the successful ones have?
I think as far as selling goes, you need to understand the most important is you need to know how to educate yourself. So you need to be able to consume content and find the people that you resonate with, that you feel are trustworthy and saying it how it is so you can learn from them. And you need to try and not be afraid to fail. The most important thing is that you need to know that it might take you 100 tries to get something right. But if it takes you 100 tries, the good side is there's now 99 ways you're never going to fuck up again. Don't make the same mistake twice, but if it takes you 99 mistakes to figure it out, the more mistakes you make, the chances of you making those mistakes go down. And so you have to have that courage and confidence to continue, and definitely need to be able to educate yourself. I think understanding how to look up comps, prices, to know like what, you know, if it's Amazon, you need to know Keepa. If it's eBay, you need to know how to look up completed sales. There's a little bit of technical stuff. If you are like averse to using a computer, it might be a little harder for you. Most stuff now you could do just using a phone, but we still do have to get on the computer for certain things. And I think if you don't know how to take a picture, a good picture, that might be a lot harder for you. You need to know simple stuff like, hey, if the light is facing the camera, it's not going to be a good picture. It's going to be dark. The light needs to be behind the camera, pointing towards the subject. You know what I mean? Like these lights that are on my face right now. And so there's a lot of basic stuff like that I think people who are native to the internet or the computers don't understand why it would be hard for other people. You need to know how to Google stuff, like how to or whatever that is for you, whether it's go on YouTube or Google or Reddit, or you need to know how to find answers, right? Because you're not going to know everything and you need to be okay with that, be able to find answers, try it, figure out what works. I mean, there's so many micro sets of skills, but I think if you know how to educate yourself and you know how to use computers a little bit and you know how to learn from your mistakes, I think that's kind of of like the primary skills that you need, because from there you'll be able to figure everything else out. But like I said, also very important, you not only have to be determined, but you have to like have the confidence and the courage to continue even when it's not good, because you just need to know that like, if I don't give up, this will work. If that person did it, I can do it too. It's just a matter of time. I learned this from skateboarding, right? And I think a lot of people don't have anything in their life. I think most people probably haven't ever tried anything more than 10 times. Like if it fails 10 times, they're never going to try it again. You know, and some people, that threshold is a lot lower. One time I tried it, it didn't work. Well, explain to me how it didn't work. Did you think about trying it a different way? They're like, oh, I don't know. It's just not for me. What do you mean? Okay, well, if you're going to give up so easy and say it's not for you, then I don't want to hear you say you hate your job and you're being oppressed by capitalism and blah, 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 blah. You have opportunities in this country. Like nothing's perfect, but like we all have an like you don't need any paperwork to make a business in America. Nothing. Me and you could start a business right now with no paperwork, just a verbal agreement, and we could start making money. You can't do that in every country. And that's like a jailable offense in some countries. And in America, we have so much opportunity, but people instead want to focus on whatever happens to them. Like if you're driving to work and you get cut off, you know, by someone, you're going to get to work, or you hit every red light. Oh, I just hit all these damn red lights. It's this idiot cut me off. You tell people about it, but people don't tell you when they drive to work and they don't get cut off and they hit all green lights. They don't talk about it. That's just normal. So it's like, it's easy to succumb to the bad things and to think that's all there is in life, because as humans, we want to stay alive. Yeah. And so we naturally speak about the bad things. If you realize that, you can understand that, hey, it's not always, the sky's not falling. I'm still alive. As long as I keep moving forward and learning and having a positive attitude, something's going to click. It's going to work.
You've talked about your history. You've talked about the different business models. You talked about successful sellers. Tell me about the future of Amazon. You know, you've been on Gary Vee's show. He's massively into reselling, loves the whole, should we say, sector. Like, where do you see it going? Tell me about that.
I don't think Amazon will, I mean, I know what your question is, but I don't think it's going anywhere. It's going to be around for a very long time. You know, they keep, you know, they're going to have to stop Amazon like with laws if they want to, because they're getting into everything. They just started doing pharmacy. They're doing medicine now. You know, you're not going to be going to the store to get anything pretty much, you know, like it's only going to become more and more important to sell on Amazon because that's just the place to sell. And I think Amazon also realizes that a lot of people see them as competition, and so they don't want to sell on Amazon. But like, I forget what it's called, but I saw sometime in the last year that they have a retail store program now. So if you own a retail store, you can sign up with Amazon and they will onboard you and help you to get your products available on Amazon. And then they will send their Amazon, basically Instacart Amazon employees to go to your store to pick up the things to then deliver them to the people that bought them. So even though you don't have a means to sell locally and do delivery, Amazon's going to facilitate that for everybody, you know, and I could see, you know, Amazon integration with maybe like Instacart or Uber or DoorDash or something like that, to where they're coming to your warehouse or your store to get your stuff and then go and take it out to the customer. It's very interesting, but I think that the way it works right now is going to continue for a while. They're just going to get bigger and bigger. They're going to get into more and more fields. And I think unless, I don't know, I almost feel like Amazon can't be stopped and can't do anything wrong. I think a lot of crazy stuff like that is going to happen. They're going to keep experimenting with new and different stuff, but really we don't know. The one thing I know about commerce that is increasingly important is the last mile. And that is, everybody wants their stuff today. Everybody wants it today. And if I could get it delivered to my door today and save me from having to go somewhere, back in the day, we'd like, let's go to the mall. And, you know, it's like a family outing. Nobody does that anymore. Unless you have to. You absolutely have to, you know, because you know you're overpaying most likely.
I remember when I lived in the UK, we used to have it whereby you could order and have it delivered within 4 hours from some suppliers in London, which was like different suppliers in London. Amazon did some stuff like that as well, which is incredible. It was like, I will just do that.
Yeah, like even like Tesco, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, I learned that too. That was another thing. And that's why Amazon's not as valuable in other countries as they are in America. Like American Amazon has way more traffic, spends way more money than like the whole EU combined. And that's a lot of customers and a lot of Amazon stores. But the problem is that Amazon started in the US. Everybody everywhere else saw what Amazon did, and they were like, wow, they conditioned everyone to have easy returns and to get their items in 3 to 5 days, and they're willing to pay a subscription fee. So when Amazon showed up in Europe, Tesco already had same day delivery because they saw what happened with Amazon and they knew it would work. So it was less of a tall glass of water for them. You know what I mean? It wasn't like in America, we were like, what do you mean I could get anything and have it delivered in 3 days? Because back in the day, it used to take 10 days or more for something to show up after you ordered it, right? And so that's why Amazon's not as big in other countries and they struggle hard to grow it.
Question for you, and it'll be my final question. If you were in 60 seconds, if you were to start again now with like next to no money, let's call it less than $100, how would you go about doing it?
I would just sell junk on eBay, 100%. Yard sales, Facebook Marketplace to eBay, Craigslist, wherever I could get stuff that was underpriced and most likely used, because you have a more likelihood of multiplying your money by a higher factor. That's what I would do. I would sell all the crap that I have that I don't need. And I think everybody in America has at least $500, if not $5,000 of money locked up in crap they don't need in their house. Like literally, it's still in a box from the last time you moved in the garage. You don't even know what's in there, but it's money. Liquidating your own stuff you don't need, going to yard sales are the best, because I don't know if you know, but thrift stores are way more competitive nowadays than they used to be. Like go to the Goodwill outlet, like I said, because that's still great price by the pound. But other than that, you need to get the good stuff before it gets to the thrift store and gets overpriced, which means you need to go to yard sales and flea markets. And, you know, I live in a place where we have yard sales almost year round, at least like 80% of the year, because it pretty much only rains in fourth quarter. But other places, it's not the same. You know, they only can go in spring and fall, you know, or maybe in the morning in summer. But just used stuff, just junk. It's not going to be sexy. Buy it for $1, sell it for 10. Do that 1,000 times.
Question for you. If anyone wants to get in contact, what's the best way?
Just hit me up on YouTube, Instagram. You can find my YouTube channel at reezy.tv. Subscribe. But if you want to send me a message or ask me a question besides YouTube comments, Instagram is probably the DMs that get checked most often. Also, Twitter. I'm fairly active on Twitter, and that's the platform that I have the smallest following on. So like I don't know, I really like Twitter. It's great because it's straight from your brain to the conversation. I don't have to think about the photo or the video or whatever. And if it doesn't do good, no one cares. So if you want to become my friend, hit me up on Twitter.
I love it. And if anyone wants to know, I'll put all the links down below. So check that out. And Reezy, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing everything. And, you know, thank you. And well done on your journey. And my God, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens over the next couple of years as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Take care.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
week. Bye.